He looks very good.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Today is Thursday, October 23rd, 2025. This is the Interim Joint Committee on Licensing and Occupations and Administrative Regulations. It looks like we have a quorum, but let's go ahead and take the roll, please.
Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Berg. Senator Douglas.
Present.
Senator Higdon. Senator Howe. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel.
Here.
Senator Meredith. Senator Nemus.
Present.
Senator Nunn. Representative All. Representative Banta.
Present.
Representative Callaway.
Present.
Representative Kleins.
Here.
Representative Dietz.
Here.
Representative Donworth. Representative Pfister.
Here.
Representative Flannery. Representative Gentry. Representative Hampton. Representative Heverin.
Here.
Representative Huff.
Here.
Representative Jackson. Representative Kulkarni. Representative Meredith.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Neighbors.
Here.
Representative Raymer.
Here.
Representative Smith. Representative Wilson. Co-Chair Cook. Chair Rocky Adams.
Here. All right. We have a quorum and we are duly constituted to conduct business today. Does anybody have a special guest they would like to introduce? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a good friend here, Danny Eckert. He is the Vice President of Eckert Welding and Erectors. So if you go by a construction project and you see the steel structures, that's what he does. So welcome, Dan.
We would like to make you feel welcome, Dan. Thanks for being here. Okay, next on our agenda is the approval of the September 25, 2025 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the minutes are approved. Okay, first on our agenda to discuss is the dietitian licensure compact. We have with us today Representative Vanessa Grossel. If you could make your way to the table and you and your guest introduce themselves for the record, and you can proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Adams. Vanessa Grossel, State Representative in the 88th House District, covering Scott County and Fayette County.
Whitney Duddy, representing the Kentucky Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics.
Caitlin Bison with the National Center for Interstate Compacts.
And just make sure that you pull the microphone close to your face so that everybody can hear. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for this opportunity to address why Kentucky needs to enact the Interstate Licensure Compact for dietitians. If this sounds familiar to you, if you're my House colleagues, that's because it is. And in fact, we voted this off the House floor unanimously, so thank you all for voting for it. And unfortunately, we just ran out of time, I believe, in this session, and so it's something that I plan to file again in our next session. We did do a fiscal note on this, if you're wondering, and I want you to know that this is a revenue neutral bill. And what that means is that the license cost actually covers the administrative expenses that are projected for Kentucky joining this interstate compact for dietitians. At the time when we filed it in January, only 3 states had enacted it, so we were going to be one of those front runners. And now we have quite a few more, and I'll let the guests share more details about that. I want to thank the co-sponsors of this bill, Representative Tipton, Representative Pfister, Representative Gordon, Representative Moore, Representative Roberts, and also to thank Senator Douglas for being willing to partner with me and champion this over in the Senate. This compact's enactment is also supported by the Department of Defense, and it's one of the state priorities identified by our Southern Regional Liaison, Samantha Sliney, in the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Military Community and Family Policy. And her role includes providing state policymakers with insights on issues impacting military families. Another proponent of the enactment of this compact is our very own Brigadier General Stephen Bullard, Executive Director of the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs. And so you can imagine that enacting this compact is going to help with the career portability for our military service members and their spouses as they travel frequently. Relocate is a better word, frequently for work and after retirement even. It also provides greater career sustainability for those individuals and financial security as well. But let me turn it over to Whitney Duddy, who's here, and she'll tell you more about how it impacts those who are maybe not in the military.
Good morning, chairpersons and members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you again today. I'm Whitney Duddy. I'm a registered and licensed dietitian residing in Edgewood, Kentucky. I serve as Kentucky Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Consumer Protection Coordinator, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit more about the compact from a professional's perspective. So being a resident in the northern tri-state area, I have a big stake in this because I do currently hold 2 licenses, and this would allow me to be able to maintain my Kentucky license, yet practice in other states in my area. The Dietitian Licensure Compact is built on the same solid framework as many compacts you guys have already approved through this committee, including physical therapy, occupational therapy, counseling, and speech-language pathology. This proven model guarantees consistency and reliability while maintaining Kentucky's high standards for dietitians, reflecting our commitment to ensuring safe and qualified care in our state. One of the key benefits, which Representative Grossell has already addressed, is the positive impact on relocating military members and their spouses. And I will not belabor that point since Representative Grossell did so well. Additionally, it's an enabler for telehealth. It simplifies the process for licensees to practice across state lines, and this will increase access to qualified care for Kentuckians, especially in our rural and underserved areas. It ensures that citizens can maintain continuity of care without unnecessary barriers. So right now, 15 states, including our neighbors of Ohio and Tennessee, have already enacted this legislation. The Compact Commission has been formed, and the process of implementing the compact is happening now. By joining the compact, we will ensure that Kentucky is not left behind and remains competitive in attracting and retaining skilled professionals. So in conclusion, this compact brings numerous benefits to our state without compromising our high standards. It supports our military families, it enhances telehealth opportunities, and it aligns with our neighboring states using a proven and reliable model. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to pass it to Caitlin Bison.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the committee. I would like to express my appreciation for your consideration of the Dietitian Licensure Compact. My name is Caitlin Bison with the Council of State Governments National Center for Interstate Compact, and I would like to provide you with some educational background information on the development of the compact. So the Council of State Governments has facilitated the development process for all, I believe now 21 active occupational licensing compacts, including the 10 that Kentucky is a member of, and including this one. The Dietitian Compact seeks to provide licensees with opportunities for multi-state practice, support relocating practitioners, and fostering workforce development by reducing unnecessary licensure burdens. This compact was created through cooperative agreement between the Department of Defense and the Council of State Governments. For 18 months, CSG developed the compact language with stakeholders within the profession, from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, dietitian regulatory boards, and industry-leading practitioners. That compact language was then finalized in October 2023. Now 15 states have joined the compact, and they will have their inaugural meeting of the Commission in November, where they will do the important work of operationalizing the compact over the next year or so, setting up the bylaws and important rules, as well as, most importantly, the shared data system that the compact sets up that really raises the bar of information that regulatory boards have access to. Speaking of, from a regulatory perspective, the compact preserves the authority of each compact member state to protect public health and safety through the existing state regulatory structure. So a licensee practicing under a compact privilege must abide by the laws, regulations, and rules that govern the practice of dietetics in the state which they are located. So the Kentucky Board for Dietitians will have jurisdiction over anyone practicing in Kentucky under a compact privilege with the dietitian compact. And then, like all of these occupational licensing compacts, this compact will be governed by the commission I mentioned earlier. And if enacted in Kentucky, a representative from the Kentucky Board of Licensure and Certification for Dietitians and Nutritionists would be a representative on that commission and have an equal voice in the decisions of the commission. Overall, the Dietitian Compact will increase licensure portability for licensed dietitians in Kentucky, support military families, and improve access to dietetic services for Kentucky residents while maintaining the current system of licensure. Thank you so much.
So the next logical step is for Kentucky to enact this interstate compact on dietitians. So as a next step, I'd like to ask that you consider co-sponsoring if you're my colleague in the House or Senator Douglas's colleague when we bring this legislation forward in January. And now we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. It was very good. We do have one question so far. Representative Gentry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam Chair, I'm sorry. Representative Girlsoul, my sister would be very pleased that you're bringing this because she is a dietitian. But I have, I think, a fairly simple question. You guys mentioned Ohio and Tennessee is already part of this compact. Are there any other bordering states in Kentucky that are part of this yet? And if not, are any of them currently filing legislation or working to join this particular compact?
Sorry. I believe currently, as far as border states, just Ohio and Tennessee. Currently, they got those 15 states mostly in the last legislative session in 2025. In 2024, they only had about 3 states. So really a large buildup and only expecting that to go up further. Don't have any current introductions, but definitely a lot of plans for movement.
Thank you for the question.
Representative Smith.
I'll be real quick, Madam Chair. You were talking about being able to be in another state and do maybe through Zoom or with patients, is that correct? Do you foresee any issue on maybe somebody building a business that way and coming in and doing it and taking a local dietitian out by offering cheaper service by doing it by Zoom or however? Do you foresee that maybe being preyed upon by having that ability to use a license, say in Tennessee, to build a business? I don't know how many people can work under that license, but say they put a shop together and they have 20 people working for them to start doing that and saying we can do it for 30% less if you'll contract us. Do you see anything like that maybe occurring, or has it occurred?
I can say as far as other compacts, we haven't that also use telehealth, like some of the ones that are already enacted in Kentucky. We haven't seen any evidence of that. And I would say another big benefit of these compacts that I maybe didn't mention is just the increased access to providers for those people in states who have a larger provider pool for dietitians to access as well. And then just the benefits administratively for dietitians being able to expand their practice, their network. Again, we haven't seen with other compacts any evidence of that. And if anything, just seen the benefits for those dietitians not dietitians, but other practitioners in compacts utilizing the telehealth services.
If I may add, we did hear from someone who is a dietitian in Louisville, and she can't currently serve clients who come across the river from the Indiana side. And so if Indiana were to join the compact, then our large hospitals in the Louisville metro region would be able to serve those patients that come across into Kentucky for care.
All right, any other questions? Thank you very much. I appreciate your all's time.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee.
All right, next up, we are going to tackle the subject of music therapy. So if you all could make your way up to the table and please introduce yourself for the record and then proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Chris Millett, and I'm representing the Kentucky Music Therapy Task Force.
My name is Laura Elliott Buckner, and I am also representing the Kentucky Music Therapy Task Force.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Kimberly Senamore, and I'm representing the Certification Board for Music Therapists.
And before you all get started, just so the committee knows, this bill that has been introduced by Senator Gerald Neal for, I think, the last two sessions. So just to give you some context.
Thank you. Good morning, Senator Adams. I hope I'm saying it correctly, Representative Cook, and members of the Interim Joint Licensing, Occupations, and Administrative Regulations Committee. I'm going to stay on script. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. It's encouraging to be welcomed to a committee with members, many people in this room that have already supported us and shown support for music therapy throughout the years. My name is Chris Millett. I'm an assistant professor of music therapy at the University of Louisville, and I also serve on the National Board of Directors for the Certification Board for Music Therapists. I'm proud to call myself a lifelong Kentuckian, and I sit here today joined by my colleagues to testify in support of Senate Bill 42 on behalf of Kentucky's board-certified music therapists and the Kentuckians whose lives are changed through this work. This legislation, as was mentioned, sponsored by Senator Neal, who's traveling this week, creates a music therapy license in the state, which serves to strengthen public protection, increase access to safe and competent therapeutic care, and honors the expertise already present in our Commonwealth. Music therapy, if you don't know, is defined by the clinical and evidence-based use of music interventions to accomplish individualized goals within a therapeutic relationship by a board-certified professional. However, it's not simply playing songs for people. Board-certified music therapists, or those that hold the MTBC, Music Therapist Board-Certified Credential, complete a bachelor's degree or higher in music therapy from an accredited university. They have over 1,200 hours of supervised clinical training and pass a national board certification exam and continue to maintain professional continuing education credits through the Certification Board for Music Therapists. We are trained to work in complex medical, behavioral health, and educational settings, among others, using music as a therapeutic tool to support rehabilitation, communication, emotional regulation, and overall quality of life. For example, in a medical setting like UK healthcare, a music therapist may help a patient recovering from a stroke regain speech or motor skills through rhythm and melody. In a school, we might use music experiences to help neurodivergent students meet their social or academic goals outlined in their individual education plan or IEPs. Students at the University of Louisville with me provide service at the State Women's Prison, and we often use songwriting to help inmates process their grief and trauma, reclaim their identities, and ultimately prepare for reentry.
And in a memory care setting, we use familiar songs to restore connection and dignity for individuals with diseases like Alzheimer's. Each of these settings and many more require a deep clinical knowledge, strong ethics, and a clear understanding of how to use music safely and effectively. There are over 125 board-certified music therapists in Kentucky, and we have 2 university programs, an undergraduate degree at the University of Louisville and a graduate program at the University of Kentucky. I'm one of those crazy people that has gone to both schools. Which brings us to our bill. Senate Bill 42, in its current version, establishes state licensure for professional music therapists through a newly created Kentucky Board of Licensure for Professional Music Therapists under the Department of Professional Licensing and the Public Protection Cabinet. In short, that recognizes our MTBC credential as the minimum national standard to practice music therapy professionally in Kentucky. We would like to take this opportunity to also share that we submitted requested changes last spring to shift the administrative structure model from a board to a volunteer music therapy advisory committee. This model, which has worked in multiple other states with a music therapy license, provides the same protections while lessening the administrative burden. There are many benefits to creating a music therapy license in the Commonwealth. First, it provides title protection, meaning that only those who have met the standards of education, training, and certification can represent themselves as a licensed professional music therapist. It also provides a mechanism for consumer protection by ensuring that anyone offering music therapy is properly qualified to provide safe and effective services. Importantly, this bill does not require new state funding. A licensing board will be self-sustaining through modest application and renewal fees, just as other allied health professionals are. SB 42 is not about expanding government bureaucracy. It's about protecting Kentuckians and recognizing the professionals who already serve them. Licensure of music therapists protects both Kentuckians and the professionals. Licensure is typically considered the required standard for professional recognition of expertise and scope in medical and mental health fields in Kentucky. While we often work in the facilities where similarly trained providers are licensed, music therapists are not. The current lack of licensure and professional recognition for music therapists can lead to a lack of respect for our scope of work, which leads to harm by withholding of necessary and beneficial services to consumers, or results in other providers attempting unsuccessful music therapy interventions with clients and causing harm. Right now, any person, regardless of their training, could claim to offer music therapy, and that creates a real risk of harm when untrained individuals use music with vulnerable populations in clinical or educational settings. We've seen examples nationally where well-meaning individuals without proper training have caused distress, physiological or psychological harm, or re-traumatization by music in ways that weren't clinically appropriate. By contrast, qualified music therapists are trained to recognize when music can help and, yes, when it can cause harm. We work within established treatment plans, follow ethical guidelines, and collaborate with interdisciplinary teams to ensure safety and effectiveness. Now, this licensure doesn't stop other people from using music in their work. Far from it. We believe music belongs to everyone, and we deeply value our interdisciplinary colleagues who use music appropriately within their own scope of practice. This is reflected in the exemption language in SB 42. What this bill simply does is clarify and protect the term music therapy. When someone represents what they do as music therapy, Kentuckians can trust it's being provided by a trained and qualified professional who meets standards for safety, ethics, and competency in music therapy service delivery. Licensure also improves access and clarity. Many state agencies and programs, such as waivers, special education systems, and insurance networks, require that a profession be recognized in state statute before it can be included as a service option. That means that until we pass this legislation, Kentuckians are potentially losing out on a valuable therapeutic treatment option they could be receiving simply because the credential isn't officially recognized. Furthermore, this bill will help us retain Kentucky-trained music therapists. Every year, students graduate from our universities, like U of L and UK, but too many of them move to other states after graduation because, unlike some of the neighboring states, Kentucky lacks professional licensure. By establishing licensure, we will encourage highly trained professionals in the state to stay and attract new therapists from other states who might want to call Kentucky home. SB 42 aligns Kentucky with a growing number of states, including Ohio, Tennessee, Georgia, and many others in our region and beyond that have already taken this step to protect consumers and strengthen their workforce. At its heart, This bill is about Kentucky taking care of its own. It's about ensuring that every child, adult, and elder who receives music therapy does so from a qualified professional. Moreover, it ensures that these professionals are recognized and supported by the state that they serve. It's about protecting the public, expanding access, and celebrating the excellence that already exists within our Commonwealth. I'm proud to be a Kentuckian. I grew up here. I was trained here. I moved and then came back to teach here. I want to keep helping Kentuckians through my work, like so many of my colleagues who feel the same. I want not only to retain the talent we develop in this state, but again, to attract great music therapists that want to live in our Commonwealth too. So thank you to the members of the committee for your continued leadership and for considering this legislation. We would welcome your support and co-sponsorship when we refile in 2026, and myself or my colleagues would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your testimony. And, you know, music really is amazing, and all the things that it can do and how it touches people's lives and how it connects us all in very different ways. So thank you very much. We do have a question. Senator Higdon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for your presentation. I guess with licensure, you can bill insurance and Medicaid.
Thank you for the question. We get that frequently. It can help open the door. It's not as black and white as helping to bill, and with music therapy services, we're not going to be a part of core Medicaid. It could make it easier to get included in waiver funds, which are the federal funds to help kind of fill the gaps in services, and states have a lot of leeway in terms of how they use those funds. So it can help open the door. It is not a guarantee.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Representative Donworth.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chair. Are these eligible, are music therapy expenses, are they eligible for HSAs, for health savings plans currently, or would that make it more accessible?
I appreciate the question. That has not come across in any of the states where we're currently recognized. So I don't know.
I can add just a little.
Sorry.
Is it working? Yeah, right. I can add just a little. Some of our clients that have come through the U of L Music Therapy Clinic, through things like 7 county services and stuff like that, have been able to use HSA funds through music therapy for like 7 counties, for example. Yes.
Okay, great. And may I have a follow-up comment, if that's all right, Madam Chair?
Sure.
Okay. I worked for our hospice organization with grief therapy. We had some music therapists that helped children processing that. I'm familiar with it with uses of people in the autism spectrum, and a lot of treatments with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. So I think this is a really great thing to do, and I would encourage all of my colleagues to consider this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anybody else on the committee? All right, seeing no more questions, thank you very much. Appreciate your
Thank you all.
testimony.
Thank you for your time and attention.
Okay, next on our agenda is expanding physician access. We have Adam Meyer. I don't know if he is in there. Coming on up. If you all could introduce yourselves. Good to see you. Introduce yourselves for the record and proceed. You have a beard now.
And a mullet.
Yeah, and a mullet.
Adam Meyer, I'm with the Cicero Institute.
Can you put your microphone on and restate your name for the record?
Thank
There
you. Rupinder Kaur with Baptist Health.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Madam Chair, members of the committee. Again, my name is Adam Meyer. I serve with the Cicero Institute as the Director of Healthcare Policy. The Cicero Institute is a nonpartisan public policy organization dedicated to fostering market-driven policy solutions at the state level. I'm here to discuss the provisional licensure pathway for high-quality international physicians. Such legislation is a smart, critical solution to Kentucky's escalating healthcare access crisis. Kentucky faces a severe and urgent physician shortage. This is not an abstract future threat. This is a present reality that leaves patients underserved, and particularly in rural areas. The data clearly illustrates the depths of the challenge. Kentucky's physician-to-patient ratio is 23% worse than the national average. We're projected by 2030 to have less than, or be short nearly 3,000 doctors. Primary care alone is projected to be short 624 providers. 107 of Kentucky's 120 counties are designated as health professional shortage areas. And this is compounded by the fact that 32% of Kentucky physicians are currently within retirement range. We have highly qualified, internationally trained physicians living in the U.S. who are ready to work but are prevented from practicing due to arbitrary licensing rules that force them to repeat years of training. Up until a few years ago, this was the case in nearly every state. However, states have begun to remove this requirement for redundant training, and Kentucky now has the opportunity to do the same. The provisional licensure pathway in our model bill at the Sister Institute and what we saw in a Kentucky counterpart that was filed last year ensures that Kentucky attracts skilled, experienced international physicians while maintaining all rigorous standards of patient safety and care. The act would allow experienced international physicians to enter the Kentucky workforce and fill critical vacancies without repeating residency, provided they meet these demanding and specific qualifications for licensure. First, they have to have an employment offer. That offer of employment has to be with a physician with a corporation licensed and or authorized to provide health care or that operates in the Commonwealth. Has to have established training and experience, so they must have completed residency or substantially similar postgraduate medical training approved by their licensing country. Furthermore, they must have practiced as a medical professional for no less than 5 years in their licensing country. They have to have a license in good standing. The applicant must be in good standing or authorized to practice medicine within the medical licensing or regulatory institution of their home licensing country. They must have passed a U.S. medical licensure exam, at least step 1 and 2, and then some states would require 3. They have to have and then there's a path to full licensure. So once granted the provisional license, it will automatically convert into a full and unrestricted license to practice medicine in the Commonwealth after 3 years, and the physician need not maintain employment with that original sponsoring employer. We feel this is a measured and responsible approach. It recognizes the education experience these doctors already possess while placing them under mandatory 3-year probationary periods in an active practice in Kentucky. One other point I would say is that residency slots are limited, and many U.S. medical graduates don't match for an open residency slot. Requiring international physicians to repeat residency in the U.S. means that those slots are taken and cannot be used for a U.S.-trained graduate who may not otherwise match. So thank you for your time, and happy to answer any questions as I turn it over to my colleague.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Rupinder Kaur, and I serve as the Executive Director of Physician and Advanced Provider Recruitment for Baptist Health. So me and my team are responsible for placing physicians in all 8 hospitals throughout the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Tennessee passed a bill allowing for physicians with non-U.S. residencies in 2023. And I remember reading about it then and thinking that if Kentucky could have a similar program, we could bring access to a large patient base, especially in the rural markets where there's already a critical shortage. At this moment, I'm recruiting for 173 doctors throughout the Commonwealth. We brought that number down from 250 within the last 18 months, but we're not moving it as fast as we potentially could. Baptist Health is the largest healthcare system in Kentucky with 8 hospitals. Besides Lexington and Louisville, we have facilities in Richmond, Corbin, Elizabethtown, Paducah, Madisonville, and LaGrange. We also have a hospital across the river in Indiana, New Albany, at Floyd, a state which, by the way, just passed a similar bill this year. The proposed bill, if passed, would be a game changer for Kentucky because it would open up a new pipeline of candidates for the toughest to recruit for roles and locations, including rural areas. Virtually all of our sister states have passed similar legislation. This has adversely impacted our pool of candidates as other states' hospitals are choosing from a wider population than we are. Kentucky is an island, and our communities are at a disadvantage not only for primary care doctors as well as specialists. Kentucky needs oncologists, neurologists, cardiologists, amongst various other specialties. At the annual neurology meeting, which I attend every year, And there was a lot of discussion around increasing population of neurologists who are international medical graduates. Just specifically in neurology, the trainee population is going to increase to up to 60% of international medical graduates. And we're seeing that trend in other specialties, including cardiovascular. This is a growing trend in the medical community as the shortage increases. As a recruiter, I can tell you that these internationally trained physicians are committed to working in our communities, even in sometimes especially rural areas. Many of them have currently practiced or trained or grew up in a rural community in their home country, so it is not a new population to them. The bill would allow providers to seek out the best and the brightest. The physicians are highly trained, responsible, and have passed all relevant exams, including an English language proficiency exam. They are certified by the ECFMG, which is the Educational Commission on Foreign Medical Graduates, and their credentials have gone through a vigorous verification process. Thank you for your consideration of this bill.
Thank you very much. Okay, you mentioned that there was a bill that was filed. Was that filed in the House or the Senate?
For Indiana?
No, for Kentucky. Or have we filed one in Kentucky?
It was in the House.
Okay. And but it didn't pass. Okay.
No.
So that would be something new. And you recruit, they're not living in the United States. You would recruit internationally to bring them here. Is that correct?
Madam Chair, it could be either.
Okay. We do have a couple of questions. First of all, Representative All.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have two quick questions, if I may.
Sure.
Number one, you mentioned Kentucky. You mentioned Tennessee, Indiana, and most of our sister states are already doing this. Do you have a rough number or estimates of how many other states are doing something in this space already?
Madam Chair, Representative All, there's a map, I believe you guys may have been provided a copy, that shows you all of the different bills and legislation that's passed on the issue around the country.
Okay.
Yep.
And then number two, on the differences in the background and the education, I think we all can appreciate and understand, depending on which country you got your historical education versus here, or even state to state, there's going to be different types of education. You talked about the certification process. They have to pass certain standards and tests here. Is there any kind of continuing education for those physicians to come here to kind of specifically breach or make up those differences?
Madam Chair, Representative All, yes. So they're going to be subject to the exact same tests that U.S. medical graduates are, right? So they have to take the U.S. medical licensure exam or the USMLE. They also are going to be subject to the same licensing requirements for continuing education. And also by going through the Education Commission on Foreign Medical Graduates, it's a pretty rigorous process. That means that their medical training in terms of medical school has been basically certified, right? It means that organization has looked at their medical training and certified their training to be, in par with what we would expect in the United States.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Senator Berg.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and thank you guys very much. I have, did you say they have to retain employment with the same person, same group for 3 years, or they're allowed to switch?
Madam Chair, Senator Berg, they are required to be employed with a Kentucky employer. They can, at least in our model bill, they can switch employers as long as it still meets the requirements as a Kentucky provider.
Okay, so follow-up question.
But it does not require them to stay with whoever their employer sponsor was once they leave provisional status.
All right. I've had experience with foreign trained graduates at U of L. We brought in a number of diagnostic radiologists from Germany, actually. They were wonderful. And then their visas expired and they had to leave and we couldn't keep them anymore. And I believe there's some in the big, beautiful bill that's going to affect how many foreign people we can train in this country. My main concern is oversight. You cannot have foreign-trained physicians come into this country and start practicing medicine without somebody who is trained and licensed and knows the standards in this state making sure that they're keeping up with them. Because, if you're talking about bringing in a cardiologist, setting them up in private practice out in a rural community with no oversight, my answer is no, it's not safe. We've seen multiple times where, even if nothing else, billing abuses. They don't understand how we bill in this country. So I just want to make sure whatever bill we have has extensive oversight in it, because otherwise you're going to hurt people, or you take the risk of hurting people.
Yeah, and I mean, and to that point, that's why it's so important that we have a Kentucky regulated provider who's willing to take that kind of supervisory role on, right? And they don't want to take that risk either, right? They're not going to bring somebody who's unqualified that they're just going to turn loose. I mean, I can't speak for every provider, but what I would say is, and at least at Baptist, I'll let her speak to what that process would look like.
What we're finding, where we're having a tough time to find a replacement, is for some of the rural physicians who are on in a certain community, have been there, very passionate about practicing there, finding a partner to replace them. So this would allow a built-in mentorship runway of 3 years or more for them to be mentored by an American-trained, board-certified physician. And to take over, correct. Yes, this would not be a standalone, injecting someone into a random location and standalone practicing without supervision. Does that answer your question?
A little bit. I'm still, honestly have some hesitancy. There's differences in training, there's differences in education, and there's also, honestly, some differences just in culture and how we versus other countries provide medicine. So I just, if we're going to open this up, I think we have to be extremely careful, particularly if you're talking about placing physicians in rural locations where there is little oversight. That's already happening in this country. So thank you.
Senator Nunn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This may be a multi-part question because I need to understand a little bit. You'll be surprised to learn I never went to medical school. So the residency, is that part of the certification process, and that's what we're looking to eliminate with this? Is that accurate?
Would you like her?
Yeah. Go for it.
Yes, residency. So once they've completed a medical
Yeah.
School and have obtained their MD, they do go through a residency program. That's typically the first layer if they don't go up to subspecialize. So this would, there's just not enough residency slots, unfortunately, historically, and they're not going to expand anytime soon. So this would be it would bypass that if they meet the criteria that would be outlined.
So for lack of a better word, you can't fail a residency. I mean, there are people who don't make it through residency.
That's true.
Okay.
So they would have completed a residency training program in their country that would be recognized as comparable.
So are there any statistics that show the difference between a U.S. trained physician and their success rate in residency versus a foreign trained physician and their success rate in a U.S. residency? Do we have that data that tells us how they compare, how they?
That's a really great question.
I think
and
so.
I appreciate
Thank you.
you asking
Thank you.
that.
That's why I asked it.
That data is available. I don't have it in front of me, but both the ECFMG and the AMA do furnish that data and track it, as well as track the match rate. So that could be furnished.
I think that would be very instructive to us if you could provide that. Thank you.
Senator Douglas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Burke and I don't agree a lot, but I certainly agree with some of the things he talked about with some of the cultural differences, especially in some of our rural communities. But my main question is this: when we take a look at our physician or our healthcare shortage, one of the things that often gets lost in the message is that one of the biggest issues is the maldistribution of healthcare workers within our system. And there is an actual number problem, but the biggest issue is a maldistribution of where those physicians are practicing. how does this really help us? Is there going to be some structure to say that you can only practice in these areas? Because otherwise what will happen is, as generally happens, is that we have physicians who come in, they stay in an area for a year or two or whatever they're designated to stay, and then they move to the urban regions, and we still have our healthcare deserts. But we also increase the competition within the highly populated areas. So I just want to hear a little bit of discussion about that. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Senator Douglas, I don't have the data in front of me, but I can tell you that internationally trained docs or IMGs will tend to take higher proportionate roles in rural areas.
Can I add
Yep.
to that? So at Baptist, our requirement would be to tackle the primary care problem first in some of these deserts, healthcare deserts, so which would require for them contractually to stay there for 5 years. Typically, by then, someone's built a life. It's become a home. They've integrated, hopefully, in that community. So we're hoping that that will build in some retention as well. But you do run a risk of turnover. They may have a life change. They may meet a partner in a different part of the country, whatever the case might be, which would, be applicable to any physician. And they could be up for relocation once their contract obligation's up.
It's interesting. I also serve on the Administrative Regs Committee, and we just voted to accept for accreditation for the optometrist the Canadian accreditation rather than the U.S. standards for accreditation for optometry. And it was the first time that we had done that. So it's interesting to see how we are kind of moving in various different directions with accreditation and in the space of medicine. Senator Berg?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. And there was one thing I meant when you talked about oversight, when I was talking about oversight, direct oversight. Because there are, unfortunately, many physicians in this state who would take $50,000 to put their signature on a piece of paper that says, I'm watching you, and do nothing. It has to be direct clinical oversight. We have to make sure that patients individually are being cared for. I'm not talking about forever. I'm saying until we have a way of knowing that we have a good, valid practitioner on our hands.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Representative Donworth?
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you all for this. I have a sister who's a physician in Louisville, and my father was a cardiologist in Lexington. I share Senator Berg and Senator Douglas's concerns, but also I don't want you all to leave here discouraged, because I think what they're saying is that the devil is in the details, and it would depend on how this legislation is crafted and what the structures are, at least in my opinion. So I think ultimately we want to make sure that Kentuckians have access to care, and that's what you all are trying to do. I happen to be in Lexington. There are a whole lot of international doctors, internationally trained doctors and specialists in particular, that our community really benefits from having them there. But again, making sure that they are going through and providing the best quality care for our entire community. So thank you. That's all I had. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from committee members? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your testimony. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Did we save the best for last? We have the Kentucky Real Estate Commission and the Board of Alcohol and Drug Counselors update. Representative Patrick Flannery will give us an update on these. You know the drill. Introduce yourself for the record and please proceed.
Thank you all. Patrick Flannery, representative for the 96th District, and very aware that I'm the only thing standing in between some of you all heading to a very important event here in a minute, so I will try to make this quick. Chairman Cook has assigned different members in the House to converse with different agencies to get an update. I don't want to read this verbatim, but I'm not giving my opinions. I'm giving the responses from 2 different agencies. So I will try to give you the highlights as to what their responses were. First, starting with the Board of Alcohol and Drug Counselors. When asked what the biggest challenges they are facing, the response is about the implementation of House Bill 505, which passed, I believe, in 2024. Some of those obstacles are they have concerns about additional staffing to be sure that they can comply with that. And although they have indicated that they do believe that they, they're trying to do the best with what they have, but they think additional staffing could be helpful with that. Most of their responses really revolves around House Bill 505 as just really trying to get that. What that bill did is it kind of a newer, I guess, term or position, peer support specialist, and I think because that's kind of a new thing in the recovery space, they're just trying to make that work. When asked if they have any vacancies, they indicated that there were additional 4 board positions that were added, actually under House Bill 505. Again, all those have been filled, and that the only current vacancy on that board is the citizen at-large position, which does need to be filled. And I can also be sure that all these responses are given to the committee so you all can read those verbatim. And like I said, I don't want to sit here and read off verbatim on all this. Secondly, the Kentucky Real Estate Commission, when asked what their biggest challenges are, it's a backlog of complaints. They indicated there's approximately 200 total complaints that are in various phases of adjudication, and that there are no known obstacles in achieving the goals of the commission. When asked about current staffing levels, they believe that it's sufficient to meet the needs of Kentucky and the purpose of that agency, and that any additional support would be welcome, but is not needed. They indicate there are no known legal or regulatory barriers hindering their work. They have approximately 21,480 licensees that they are involved with licensing and involved with investigations on a yearly basis. When asked how long it takes for the board to approve new licenses, so typically less than 2 days, sometimes within the same business day, and same response on renewing an existing license. There are no current vacancies on the board. They believe the current statutory makeup of the board is efficient. And when asked about emerging issues or trends, they indicated that they do perform a comprehensive review of all regulations at the end of the year, and that will be completed in early 2026. And I will submit these to anyone that's interested in looking at them, and that I conclude my presentation.
Does anybody have any questions for Representative Flannery? Okay, seeing none. Are there any anything else that members want to bring up before the committee before we have a motion to adjourn? Okay, seeing none. Do I have a motion to adjourn? All right, I see it. We are adjourned.